Okay. What's up, everybody? Give everybody a couple seconds to come in. Um, what's going on, everybody? Shout out to the folks who were already on and waiting. Sorry, I'm a little late. I had to make sure I was properly nourished before I got in front of you guys today. Appreciate everybody who is checking in. My name is Stephen J. Gaither. You're watching HBCU Game Day. If you don't know, if you guys are not already subscribed, please do so. And if you are subscribed, make sure you guys hit that notification button so that you guys won't miss any of our content, whether it is live or pre-made. We're gonna go ahead and get straight into it. Folks, let me know in the comments, what brought you here, how you knew about this live stream early. Again, this is still something that we're still developing and everything like that. So still pretty new for us. But the reason that we're here to talk about a story that we first posted on HBCU Game Day over the weekend. Well, actually last week, Friday the 13th. Howard Feggins was the head coach at St. Augustine's University. He was hired back in March. Um, St. Augustine's University, for those of you who don't know, is an HBCU that is based in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's one of two, along with Shaw University. They've both been around, I believe, since the 1860s. Um, and so small private HBCU in the Research Triangle, so a very up and coming area. St. Augustine's University hasn't had football for a long time. They went through a spell where they didn't have football. They were one of several CIAA schools that didn't have football, but they eventually in the 2000s decided to start up a football program. And actually they had some pretty good success early on. Within the first decade, they were competing for CIAA titles, and really looked to be an emerging factor. But it's a small private HBCU. They don't have the attendance figures ahead of me, enrollment figures ahead of me, but usually hovering within that 12 to 1500 range. So a very small student base from the have. And again, they didn't have college football for a long time. So they had a pretty stable program until about around 2013, 2014 is when things started to run south for them. And, um, it's been a downward trajectory, unfortunately for them. In the last couple of years, they haven't had a winning record or above 500 record. I think in 2017 they were right at 500. In comes Howard Feggins. I think he's the fourth head coach they've had since 2020. So that lets you know just again the type of turnover that's been going on there. And even before Feggins got there, I've been covering HBCU Game Day was started back in 2012. I've been covering them since I started HBCU Game Day. And back in around 2019, I started hearing whispers and I started getting calls actually from parents of student athletes who were, um, I wouldn't even just say dissatisfied with what was going on, but they were concerned and upset. They were telling me about sending their students to St. Augustine's University to play football and then having to pay for equipment and things like that. So really troublesome stuff. Again, the pandemic happened. Everybody the limelight kind of went off, and again, they've just kind of had this steady stream of change that's been going on there. So Howard Feggins again was hired in March of 2023. He was hired in March of 2023 to take over the program. So, and I was able to see him. He's also announced that when he got there that they were going to start a JV program as well, which there are some schools that have JV programs. Not a lot of HBCUs have JV football programs, but that's one of the things that they started talking about implementing. So, um, you know, uh, anyway, he got fired on October 13th, Friday the 13th. St. Aug was 0-6 at the time of his firing, but based off what he's said in his recent news conference since being fired, it's it's pretty amazing that they were even able to play 6 games. He was fired officially. The reason, I'll let him talk to you guys about why he was fired officially, but basically for playing ineligible players. He kind of goes through and explains again the consistent story with St. Aug over the last half decade, really the last decade, has been a resource gap and things like that. And so we'll let Coach Feggins talk, and then I'll kind of interject as we're in there. Again, if you guys have any comments, please let me know. But feel free. Want to make sure we, see who we've got listening and watching too. But let's play a little bit of this. It's a long 45-minute clip, so we're not going to play it all, but we will get into some. We'll just kind of dip in intermittently. So here we go.
Director, Ms. Key, who is the Vice President of Finances and Administration, and
Can you guys hear it now?
so Mr. Page is not an eligible student athlete and should not have been
Are you
allowed
guys
to
hearing
play
now?
for the university this season. Troubling, Mr. Page was wearing another athlete's jersey number during that game. When the university brought this matter to your attention, you admitted that it was your fault that you did not review the compliance report or confirm that your players were NCAA compliance cleared to play. The second one, upon further investigation, the university learned that you also allowed Nyron Campbell Adams, 31, similar ineligible to play for the university this season, to play in all 5 games to date versus Lenore Ryan, Elizabeth City, Virginia State, Bowie State, and Virginia Union. Allowing ineligible individuals to play in football games for the university is a material and an athletic program and could result in university receiving serious penalties, including public reprimand. I'm going to stop there. Here's a letter. Here. Okay. Now, let's talk about that real quickly. Okay. First of all, number 9 was a former player who was ineligible, found out that he had a 10th semester ruling. And that young man has been in Canada since the 2nd week. That young man found out his ineligibility to 48 hours before the first game. So anytime a player is dismissed from the team, you automatically can give that number to someone else. With you briefly, what got me there in regards to ineligibility. Now, here's my story when I got the job. I was hired in March, late March. That was a dream come true for me. I got to hire staff. I knew I was behind in recruiting, preparing spring ball without your staff, but I was excited for the challenge. Dr. Dawson got scholarships moved from 25 to 30 full scholarships. As you know, the max at D2 is 36. That was great news. That same week, we talked about what it takes to get a brand new turf back in April. He also gave me contact information on the actual turf sales rep, of course, hoping that we could get that turf as soon as possible. While hiring assistant coaches, I knew that coaches would need temporary housing in their transition. I knew there were empty dorms. One of the assistant coaches that had verbally committed to coach at St. Aug was a 10-year NFL vet and a former Walter Payton Award nominee, Man of the Year. He did not need to be a full-time employee or even on salary. He said, give me a place to sleep and I can bring what I did in San Diego to become a nominee in Raleigh. I spoke to the housing and I was told to look at the second floor above the campus police. Housing was great and I was given 4 keys. I was excited because it had beds and a warm shower. Heck, I was sleeping on the air mattress in my office at Atkinson Hall and taking cold showers. When I got my first hire a month later, we were denied. All needs, like new helmets, new pads, thigh pads, offensive lineman knee braces, laundry detergent, cleats, workout apparel, travel gear, and etc. I called and emailed BSN, the apparel company. When I spoke with him, he said, we don't do business with you guys because you have not paid your bill. I called the company that did our laundry because I knew spring ball was coming up. I want to watch these guys' uniforms. So I called the company that I believe donated the 4 watches and 4 drives to the university to see how we can order detergent for spring ball and the season. I met with the rep in my office and he brought me an invoice to show me a 2021 and a 2022 bill. He said, we cannot do business with St. Aug till we get the bill paid. My concerns were, how come these bills have not been paid? The 2021 bill was only $167. From apparel, equipment, laundry detergent, I said, no problem. We can just fundraise to get this taken care of. When all of the head coaches met with the president, the vice president of finance and administration, and the interim athletic director, they talked about the university's SACS accreditation and how athletics need to contribute to pay the yearly CIAA membership fee to stay a member. That cost, I believe, I don't know the exact, is $100,000. At that time, we were told that any fundraising that you do had to come through the school first. Based on what I learned from the coaches that had been there, that your team rarely get what they fundraise. At that point, I was only hoping to get some clarity on when can we purchase our needs for the team. I had parents ask me, what can they do to help? We went with the president and her administration again, and they talked about the importance of athletics to this university and how the preparation for the SACS accreditation was going great. The president asked each coach, how many players are you having on your team? I said a minimum of 125. She had Ms. Key to calculate the cost of 125 times 27.5 was approximately the cost to go to university that. So she saw how much 125 teams were bringing. But we brought in 150 to 160 guys to this team. When July got here, we brought to campus, again, like I said, over 150 student athletes. As far as the SACS accreditation, I'm not 100%, but I believe that SACS group was visiting our campus in September to finalize the university accreditation. Because spending was shut down in athletics, we could not have official visits. This year recruiting, 95% of student athletes we brought here, we did not see. I went to Dr. Dawson and said, we are losing some great players to other schools because we can't bring kids on official visit. Dr. Dawson said to me directly, hey, look, give me 5 to 7 names of players that you really, really want. And get a total cost analysis. Travel, expense, hotel, food costs. My wife and I did that night. The next day, he went to the president. President approved it. Out of the 7 names we got, 6 of those guys committed. So in preparation for our summer football camp in June, I learned 2 weeks before camp that our head athletic trainer will be leaving. When I called her, the first thing she said, how did you find out? Her assistant was able to help us get through summer camp. I started the panic mode on getting an athletic trainer hired for the season. Even today, the university haven't hired a full-time athletic trainer. Now it's camp time, July 29th. We brought in 110 players at the beginning of camp, and then we spaced it out throughout the time when school opened up. The spacing was because we had a lack of equipment, because we couldn't fundraise. Oh yeah, I still haven't gotten the clearance to purchase needed equipment that was needed. We're into training camp. Out the blue, I get a call from a board member apologizing for the hornet nest that I have encountered. At that time, Dr. Dawson was looking at getting the team a module for a temporary locker room. He had me go over to Shaw University and look at theirs. So the board member asked me, what are your needs? And
all right, guys. So I'm going to jump in here. Grouch asking a great question. Title of this video, why is he doing this? So this is a news conference that Howard Feggins had on Monday for media in the Raleigh area, where he basically tried to clear the air about the conditions that were going on at St. Augustine's University. Again, he was fired. He was let go. I'm going to fast forward into some of the parts that I mentioned in the article that's on HBCUGameday.com, which has a lot of the highlights. So let's see. Let's see where we were.
To practice. Everything went through our interim compliance young lady, from medical clearance, which was our trainer, and to NCAA clearance. It took 4 days after July 4th before we get 20 players to practice. So because we had an interim athletic trainer, we only could practice from 6 a.m. to 8. No problem. But after that, we have no athletic trainer to assist with our medical conditions. 2 days before the first game, 33 players had not been cleared to play.
Sound familiar?
Talking about trying to adjust your team to a game. That same day, Thursday before the first game, we had a meeting with the president about getting a new turf, and the field will be off limits from that Monday of the Elizabeth City game. I'm excited for the turf. We talked at that meeting about a practice site. We talked about transportation for our student athletes to and from the site. We were ready to drive the 3 vans back and forth for our young men to get to practice. I spoke with the Raleigh Parks and Recreation the next day and was told that all you need is proof of insurance. That was Friday before the first game. That week of the Elizabeth City game, we practiced in the parking lot behind the bleachers at the stadium. All I kept saying was, all we need was a proof of insurance. The administration knew that we needed a certificate of insurance in order to play off campus at Southeast Raleigh High School. Mr. Lasson, the interim athletic director, emailed the COI, certificate of insurance, the Friday before the Virginia State game. In my head, I was wondering, how were we able to play off campus with the other 2 games? Anyway, it's now been 2 weeks of practicing on concrete. I was excited to get that COI email. I forwarded that directly to the Raleigh Parks and Recreational, and he emailed it back to me immediately. Said the university needs to change the names and address, and you guys can practice right away. During the 2 weeks' time, I was sending emails to administration trying to get the COI so that my team can have the best chance to compete on Saturday. I got no response. One day, I sent 3 emails to administration and never heard back. I was so frustrated about the lack of communication, but more importantly, the mental and physical well-being of our student athletes, that I emailed the administration on forfeiting our Bowie State game. Guess what? I finally got an email back. I kept saying, why should I put our young men in harm's way when the administration is not showing they care? Who allows a football team to practice on concrete, basically a high-tempo walkthrough, and now go play a fast physical game on Saturday without proper preparation? As I said, I finally got an email back from the chief of staff saying we cannot forfeit a game. But take a look at the grass beside Gould Hall and St. Agnes Hospital. I walked up there, divots, hilly, and in my head, I'm like, do they really understand what it takes to practice on a football field for a football team? On the way to Bowie, we had a practice on a football field. It was great to see yard lines and a field goal for our kickers. I get a call from Mr. Lasser saying, from Miss Key, to stop all the emails, we know the concern. Is it wrong of me to protect my players, knowing that they were not properly prepared to play a football game?
All right, so I'll pause it right there because I see we got some great comments in here that definitely want to address and just bring it into dialogue. So what Coach Feggins has been doing, and I met the man once. I interviewed him once. He's as in a journalistic and I've met him twice actually in a journalistic setting. He seems like a likable guy, a great guy. His players, and you'll hear from them in just a little bit too. They speak very much highly of him too, even though he's only been there for 7 months. But more so than that, and I think the reason why we wanted to have this discussions and things like that is because this is something that, again, as I said in the beginning, I've been doing HBCU Game Day since 2012. I have, over the years, again, I sometimes I get calls from people or get calls from parents, and one or two, you always figure, there's always going to be some folks who are disgruntled. But when you're consistently getting the same types of things over years, and you're consistently seeing that revolving door, I think it's easy to take this, and that's why I wanted to come here, and I didn't want to put this in isolation. I didn't want to put this in isolation because there's a pattern that's going on, and that's why the title of this video was, does this HBCU care about its football program, the state of St. Aug football? And the reason I said that, again, I mean, you're talking about, again, obviously, someone pointed out, Bethune-Cookman last year with the helmet situation, but again, this is something that's been a consistent theme across many people that I've talked to that have either worked there, had children go there, or dealt with it. And again, all of our HBCUs, we're talking about the amount of funding. We talked about that yesterday as far as like Eddie George and everything that they are owed and things like that. St. Aug is a private school, a small private school, and they didn't have football for a long time. And clearly there's a reason they didn't have football for a long time. Football is expensive to, even at the Division II level. It's not cheap, right? If you're going to do it and be any good. And again, for the first decade of St. Aug football, from I think 2002, 2003 to when they were there to about 2012, they were able to do it to fairly adequate standards at the Division II level in the CIAA, and field a competitive program. So there's always going to be debits, and there's going to be times maybe when money is tight and things like that. But again, you'll hear it a little bit from the student athletes as well who had to deal with this. I mean, some of the things that this is a long explanation. It requires a long attention span. Some of the things that Coach Feggins has talked about is having to practice, not having a place to practice because the turf was getting done during the season as opposed to in the season. Waiting on being able to give his team a place to practice in Wake County. And they just needed proof of insurance, not getting that, and basically leaving the football program, according to him, leaving the football program out there to practice on concrete. And we all know football is a heavy contact sport. So they weren't actually, so they weren't out there tackling on concrete. Let's get that out of the way. When you have all of these things, you have student athletes not having a practice field, you have them not having a full-time athletic trainer, trying to secure a football field to practice on during the season, when you're going up against teams every week that have practice fields that are going and practicing, and you guys are having to do basically run throughs and jog throughs, and they are doing, full contact. You don't have to be a sports scientist or a sports athletic trainer to know you're setting your young men up to fail. And so, according to Coach Feggins, and St. Augustine's University has declined to comment any further. WRAL in Raleigh is the station that has this YouTube video comes from. They have declined. They have declined doing. They've declined to speak. So we just have his account and account of his student athletes, which again I'll play in just a little bit. Um, you know, he's basically saying he's advocating for his players, and he was told by administration that to stop emailing them stop emailing them. Yeah, we know you don't have a field to practice on. We know you're asking for proof of insurance that you can get on the field to practice on. We know. But hey, in the meantime, stop emailing us. We just, whatever. So that's kind of where we are in the conversation at this point. So again, resources are always going to be an issue. Not everybody's going to always have everything they need. But again, it's, do they care about their HBCU football program, the state of it? So I just definitely wanted to give that again. And I appreciate that, Grouch. I definitely want to give that context for everything that goes on. So there's a couple more spots in here. I'll interject in, but I wanted to play that, and I know it's kind of long, but I think it's just for us to get context about what's going on, and again, whatever I can add to. So let's go a little bit further.
Kept saying, do they not understand what it takes to play the game? All I wanted to know is why I have not gotten the information that was needed so that we can practice on a football field. At that point, all I could say is, do they really care about the mental and physical health of our student athletes? Remember, we do not have a full-time athletic trainer on campus. Our young men only get treatments from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. in the mornings, no treatment afterwards. And you guys know the game of football, you can have ding-ups. So I'm concerned about that. And we had a meeting with Mr. Latson, and we wanted to talk about how can we get a key to the ice room. So therefore, we can get ice bags for our student athletes because we have a trainer. And this is throughout the whole athletic administration that we wanted the head coach to get that. Today, I still don't have a key to the ice room. As you can see, we have some big players here. We only get to eat twice a day on the weekends. How can college athletes, especially the 300-pounders, be on a full capacity energy level and eat only twice on Saturdays and Sundays in the cafeteria? Again, what are the university concerns of our student athlete mental and physical health? This brings us up to the Virginia Union game, the violation that I read at the beginning. The first two games of the season, I had received documentation, DocuSign to sign off, and emails from our compliance, updates from the compliance who was cleared and not cleared. Once I stopped receiving the eligibility report and the DocuSign, my focus was on where and how can we practice to prepare for our games. It was a lapse on my part when we played Virginia Union. Cam Page, a student athlete, wore the jersey of a player that was no longer on the team and participated. He played 3 snaps on kickoff return. I wish he'd have played 50 snaps if we won the game, but he only played 3 snaps. Again, I understand the importance of playing an illegal player because number 9 was Pierre, a young man from France. Again, he was left to go back to Canada on his connection back through to France, and he would tell you that he was a starting tailback, probably going to be the captain of our special team, and I didn't play him. So this young man's a backup. So again, there was a lapse on my part. Because we did not have a sports information director, there was a delay in the updating of the player's number. I got a call from compliance about who was wearing 9, and I had to ask my equipment manager. That night, about 10 o'clock, I got a call from Mr. Latson. He put us on a 3-way call from the chief of staff to explain what happened. I did, and the chief of staff wanted an email on what I told them to give to the president. I completed that 11 o'clock that night. Last Friday, when I got terminated immediately, I learned about Naron Campbell Adams. He was not NCAA cleared. Based on the administration investigation, he participated in all 5 games. The young man only dressed at the Virginia Union game and did not play. They have him playing in 5 games. He was not even on the travel roster to Lenoir Ryan Elizabeth City State University. These are my multiple infractions that were considered by Mr. Lasson as an NCAA level 1 violation. I challenge everyone to go look at the.
All right, so we're going to keep going
I
through
apologize to the
this.
administration. The day before a game. Where is the accountability to your own children? Believe it or not, we are here to raise them. My parking lot guys know that I have a scripture or words that I read from church every Sunday to our team meeting. This scripture is for the St. Augustine University administration. And in church on Sunday, James 3:16. Again, this is to the administration. For where you have envy and self-ambition, there you will find disorder and every evil practice. I'm going to read it again. James 3:16. For where you have envy and selfish ambition, there you will find disorder and every evil practice. Through this scripture, I found my why the university football program have had their lack of success. All I ask, please look up what an NCAA level 1 violation is. Is the university right? If the university write me up, the NCAA do an investigation.
So we'll go beyond this a little bit. He answered some questions
48 hours beforehand. And at the same time, he was part of that 33 group of guys that wasn't cleared to play. What's the second question?
The second infraction that you mentioned, the kid who.
The second infraction is kind of ironic because at the very beginning of this, giving everybody jersey numbers at the training camp, take pictures with, think through what's next.
So we'll listen to some of his players. They'll talk as well, and we'll wrap this up.
Part of some teams.
Would you mind just saying and spelling your first and last name?
My name is Anthony Butler, ANTHONYBUTLER.
What was your reaction?
So Brandon asked, where is the compliance office in all of this? So if you go to the website of the St. Augustine University athletic department, there is only an interim compliance assistant. That's literally all they have at this point as of this afternoon. So they don't have a trainer, they don't have a compliance officer, they have an assistant, and they did not have a SID, a sports information director, at this point. And that's one of the things that Coach Feggins was talking about, is that for one of them there was a jersey switch, and there wasn't an SID to update the information. And so in their investigation, they weren't even quite sure about how many games one of the student athletes played. So if this is all kind of running together, but yeah, right now compliance is an issue. Again, and it's not, and like you say, Grouch, it's not necessarily that they are incompetent. They're just wildly underfunded, and I get that, but at a certain point, that's why I want the student athletes. We'll let the student athletes talk as well. It's like, and when you're a student athlete and you don't have pads, and we've heard them say, football is expensive. So here we go. But you don't have to have football. There is that. So let's go.
From the news on Friday afternoon.
I was shocked, honestly. I've been a part of some teams where it's a revolving door with coaches, but I've never got a coach fired in the middle of the season, let alone day before a game. Emotions were everywhere. Mine was everywhere, but it's kind of hard to focus on a Saturday when leading up there you have somebody that's going in a fight with you that's no longer there on Saturday.
What was the explanation that was given to you all as a team?
There wasn't one. They used the chief of staff. I forgot his name. I think Mr. Smith or something. They used the word business, and that was troublesome to just kind of comprehend, because there was a lot of things that coach explained that business wasn't the forefront, or business wasn't taken care of. And it's just odd that this was the situation that they decided to use business on.
Was it a little more frustrating? I mean, at football, we're told all the time, it's like
Yeah, let's pause on that. I think, again, the young man makes a great point. One that will be repeated again with his teammate. The young man makes a great point. Again, this is, Coach Feggins' account of what's happened. Um, and so, the university to this point has not put out their side of what has happened. So, they reserve that right. But, according to Coach Fagans, what we have from him, he's sending emails, to the point where he's being told not to send emails, even though the issue has yet to be resolved and he's not getting responses. Again, it took for him to talk about forfeiting a game, he's saying, to get the response that he needed. Meanwhile, the university is talking about firing him was business. So, the student athletes, they're not unintelligent. They're there for a reason. And they're more than just football players. They have minds of their own, and you see their reaction to the irony of them using business. Let's go on a little bit.
Right? And for them to kind of say, "Oh no, sorry, this is business."
Yeah.
Does that feel a little?
I mean, you spend months with the guy, you spend months with your team, and you build like the rapport. And it's just hard that, like I said, going into a game, you have one of your family members, let alone a coach or a teammate, the head coach, no longer with you. Without, it was so subtle. So it is hard.
Anybody else?
Are you a senior?
Senior, yes, ma'am.
Who are you kind of senior?
Yes.
Can you just kind of talk about what Coach Vegas has meant to you with this team too?
I can go from a personal note, and then I'll go from a team perspective. Coach Feggins met me where I was. He came and got me where I was. I was part of the 7 people that was allowed an official visit and then committed right then and there. Knowing the situations, knowing the settings of the university and what they had, what they didn't have, I still chose to trust that man and play my last year of collegiate football for him. He's a man of God. He's a man of faith. His family is a family of faith. And, it was since I came there, since I arrived in Raleigh, North Carolina, it was just nothing but love. Like I said, I've been to several schools where you have assistant coaches, you have, maybe GAs or something like that do the work that he's done. And he's a head coach of a Division II team. And he, shoulders the load of a lot of things. So loyal guy. Forces you to be loyal to him because he's going to give you everything he has. Yeah.
Same thing, first and last name. You can spell it out for us.
I'm Kevin Brewington. I play receiver at St. Augustine's University. KEVINBREWINGTON. I'm a senior in the classroom, junior on the field.
So,
tell us about your reaction to this abrupt news on Friday.
It was pretty much like AB had said. It was a shock. It was a shock. It was one of the last things we could ever expect. And like he said, as far as the business standpoint, they kept throwing the business word out there when we actually had the meeting after the news had broken out. And they kept saying it was a business, it was a business, it was a business. And like AB was saying, there has been a lot of situations on our part where we're trying to get stuff done as far as getting the administration involved and trying to help us out. And the support wasn't being shown. And we would have to put in a lot of work to try and just to get some kind of response back, let alone like get the help we needed, but just something as small as getting a response back, and we couldn't even get that. And then as far as like the emails he would constantly send to the administration, and then for them to send emails back saying to stop sending emails, we understand. Like it's stuff like that it shows that like we really they say that they care, but like it's not really being shown from our standpoint.
And again, and I get it, Grouch. Yeah, emails. Nobody likes to be flooded with emails. I personally don't like to be flooded with emails. But at the end of the day, I mean, you hear this young man right here. This young man is a young man who's putting his body on the line with St. Augustine University across his chest. And but again, I mean, at the end of the day, he's gonna presumably graduate. And how are you going to go to him as an alumnus of the university, and he thinks about all the things that he's had to endure, and everything. Everybody's experience is both good and bad, but he put his body on the line. And there's something else. Again, we were talking about trust. Again, you're talking about not having a full-time athletic trainer. He's doing, he could get hurt, seriously hurt. And if there's no one there for him, it's just a matter of making sure that the student athletes are taken care of. And again, it's easy to look at things as an isolated incident, but when you look at patterns that have been there and you talk to people, and this is a consistent theme, when do you stop when do you look at this? Okay, what are we doing here? And I think that's what we have to ask.
What do you have to say to some of the challenges you brought up with the cafeteria, 2 meals a day, practicing on concrete? I mean, how difficult is that for a student athlete to be going through some of this?
It honestly, like we have gone through this. Like I think the people from 2020 that came in with my class, like we've been dealing with this for the longest, and like we brought this to attention up like year after year after year. And I feel like from a coaching standpoint, Coach Feggins, that was one of the first things that he wanted to change about us. And like during spring ball, when he came after one of our practices, he asked us like, what's going on with the calf situation? I heard you guys like the quality of food is bad. Y'all not getting enough portions of food, and y'all can only eat like 2 or 3 times a day. Well, not even 3 times a day. And like he made sure that he addressed it as early as he could. And like it's just we're not getting the help that we need. Like the calf, there's no reason that you see, like he said before, you see we got a whole bunch of big guys on the team. And same with the small guys. We eat a lot, and like we can't get good quality food, or we can't get enough food. And so it's stuff like that you have to take into consideration. And they say every time we bring it up, they say that they understand and they hear us, and a lot of times we see them taking notes, but nothing's being done. And so like that's the problem I have. And so I don't want them to make it seem like Coach Feggins is not trying to help out with this, because he is. He's doing more than enough as far as trying to bring attention to it. But as far as the upper room, the administration, they're not. I feel like, and they can all attest to it, like they're not doing their part in like fully supporting us with it.
Kind of piggybacking off of that, you go through all of this, and then you guys play probably your best game of the season, right, against Fayetteville State, and you see that all of this work that you've put in kind of culminate and
And just to reiterate, the thing about it is, again, and it's not really, again, for me, and the reason we're talking about this is not about Coach Feggins or anything like that. But you hear a young man that's been there since 2020, right? He's been there since the pandemic, and he's had at least 3 coaches that I can think of at this point. At least 3 coaches, and probably 4, to be honest with you, in that span. And I mean, again, it's a constant theme. And again, when you look at a constant theme of this, it's just, you question, what are we doing here? Why are we having football? Why, if these young, again, it's those are the questions that I ask.
game.
Right.
And then your head coach gets let go. Is it just like, gosh, I just cannot catch a break?
That was literally like the phrase that was floating around ever since that happened. Like we literally cannot catch a break. And then if you ever since Coach Feggins got fired, like came to the program, you can ask anybody, like ever since he came, like you've heard nothing but positive things around him. And it's just been a constant. I've said it before, and like every time people ask me about like how I like Coach Feggins and everything, I said like he's instantly brought a positive energy shift into the team, and like it's awesome to see like every time he's around, like you can see the chemistry we have, the love we have with each other and everything, and he instantly brought that. And I feel like the losses on our record, it doesn't show, but like we have a winning mentality just all because of Coach Feggins, and everything we do is for him and for each other, and like that's you couldn't ask for anything better as a team.
4 coaches in 5 seasons.
Right.
As a student athlete who's trying to get better at their craft, trying to have some sense of consistency, how difficult is that for you guys, learning new systems, learning new characteristics? to know people you have to trust.
It's like in our situation, it's a lot harder because it's not normal. I think Butler he mentioned it before. Like it's not normal what we go through, and like I feel like the hard part with us, it seems like there's not a sense of security. Like I understand that there's a business, but like with us, it seems like we have to be even more on our toes because like we don't know what's gonna happen the next 5 minutes from now, and it just a constant. It just like something over and over again that we have to deal with, and like that I feel like that's the hardest part for us.
Do you think the university understands just how difficult this is, adjustment, especially mid-season for you guys? And we heard Coach acknowledge that it's very odd, in his opinion, for an infraction like this to lead to an outright dismissal. Do you think the university took into account the impact it's going to have on you, the student athletes?
I think as a university, I feel like they understand and they hear us. But I feel like they don't care enough because we've had a history of losing seasons and everything, but at the same time, resources help a whole lot. Like when it comes to winning and losing, and I feel like they say they care, but they're not putting enough attention to us to see the change. And then whenever something positive happens, the administration is quick to be on our side. And like our thing is like we want the support through the good and the bad, and not just when everything's going good, because it's life. Everything's not gonna go our way, but like it would be much appreciated if we had the resources and the support that you say you're gonna give to us.
Do you have any safety concerns?
No, I wouldn't say safe. Well, food wise, calf wise, yeah, because if you really see it from the inside out, and like the stuff we have to go through as far as like eating at the calf, it forces us to go off campus and spend money pretty much every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And two, like a majority of the time, 9 times out of 10, the quality of the food it's either overcooked or undercooked food, or it's small portions, and it just it's so much negatives that go in the calf. It's hard to deal with at times.
We can all talk about the cat food, but
are you worried about if you get hurt?
this is the important part to me.
I am. It's you can't say that you're anybody that, like, from what we've been going through, anybody that says they're not worried about them having your back is a part of them is lying, because it's obvious just to see what Coach Feggins has gone through, and what we as a team have gone through. Like you have nothing but to be on your toes and have to wonder if you'll really get that help and support that you really need. Thank you.
All right, guys. So that's pretty much the end of the press conference there. But again, no program is perfect. Every program probably has things that things that they would like to fix. But again, when you hear student athletes, again, putting their body on the line, Coach talked about, not only do they not have an athletic trainer, not being able to get access to ice even. Again, we're not talking about people playing esports. We're talking about people playing an actual physical sport. And so there again, this is, I think if you look at it as an individual coaching situation, you can have your bits and pieces. But again, you talk about 4 coaches in 5 years, the instability in the program, and it's really something that has to be taken into account of when you take into account everything they've been going through. They are 0-7. They've played tight games against the last 4 CIAA champions. I think it was a 10-6 loss to Bowie State and a 7-0 loss to Fayetteville State. In sports, nobody's really going to. In sports, we like to laugh and make jokes, and I certainly like to laugh and make jokes, and everybody loves to win. Matter of fact, my alma mater, Winston-Salem State, will be taking on St. Aug this week, and man, it's going to make it harder for me to wish that they would win the game. But nobody's going to cry tears for you. But I think the student athletes, again, at St. Augustine University deserve They deserve a trainer. They deserve, they deserve to have these pieces in place for them again, and especially in a sport like football where you're really putting your body on the line and you can really injure yourself for a long term. So, St. Augustine's universities are always welcome to have their say and rebut anything that they would like to. But I thought it was important to get this news conference out there, and again to provide some context with the program for what they've been going through as they continue. They're going to finish out the season. They got 3 games to go, and then we'll see their athletic director currently is Jalen Dawson, who's they currently have an interim athletic director who is in charge as Mr. Dawson's grieving the loss of his wife. So again, it's a place where there's a consistent revolving door since they put in football, a proud tradition on the track field. George Williams won so many gold medals and things like that. But again, when we talk about football, funding it is expensive. Every school doesn't have it. And I think, again, we have to ask ourselves, are we doing enough to just say that we have a team, or are we doing enough to make sure that these student athletes are at least set up for success and be able to be out there safely and have a good experience so that when they become alumni, they'll want to take their dollars and donate it to their programs so that the next student athletes can go, have their, can have their, they can have their future. So just wanted to put it out there. Appreciate everybody for I appreciate everybody for hopping on, and make sure you guys share this, and we'll see you guys in the next one. I appreciate it, everybody. Peace.